It begins not on a battlefield, but in a basement, deep below the Pentagon, behind biometric doors and quantum-hardened firewalls. There, a machine is running simulations, millions of them, every second. It's called Thunderforge, and it might be the most dangerous AI the US military has ever created, not because it pulls triggers, but because it decides when others should. Thunderforge isn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It doesn't drop bombs or launch missiles. Instead, it simulates war. Every variable, every movement, every possibility, in real time. It predicts, it learns, and it advises. What happens if a Russian frigate enters the Black Sea? Thunderforge knows. What if China moves air defense systems near Taiwan? Thunderforge has already modeled the response. What if both happen at once? During an American election cycle. Thunderforge plays that scenario 14,000 times in under a minute. Built by DARPA and trained on over 60 years of global combat data, Thunderforge is part of a new class of military AI systems known as real-time strategic simulation engines. But Thunderforge goes further. It doesn't just simulate war, it adapts to it. When a new tactic is seen on the battlefield, a drone decoy swarm for example, Thunderforge incorporates it within seconds. It runs 1,000 scenarios of how to respond, how to counter, how to exploit it. Then, it advises US commanders on the best move. The system is fed satellite imagery, intercepted comms, battlefield footage, cyber activity logs, all in real time. Its neural core isn't just smart, it's observant. It watches the world like a chessboard. In one test, Thunderforge was given a real map of eastern Ukraine and asked to predict the next 72 hours of conflict. It was allowed no human intervention. It got over 89% of the movements correct, including several that hadn't yet occurred. Analysts were stunned, because it wasn't just calculating, it was thinking like a general. Thunderforge identifies pressure points in enemy logistics. It suggests movements that force enemy errors. It finds weaknesses in political will. And it does it all in silence from a machine the size of a shipping container. It can simulate economic breakdowns, regime changes, multi-front invasions, insurgencies, cyber ops, and nuclear escalation, all at once. The Pentagon says it's a decision support system, but some insiders call it the Ghost Commander, because once Thunderforge enters the room, it becomes very hard to ignore. Already, US Pacific Command is using a version of Thunderforge to simulate Chinese naval actions daily. CENTCOM is testing it for scenarios involving Iran and Israel. Even NATO has requested access. But not everyone is comfortable. Some worry Thunderforge could become too influential, that humans will stop questioning its recommendations, that AI will shape not just military tactics, but global strategy. And then there's the question of ethics. What happens when Thunderforge predicts war as the optimal path? What if it advises preemptive action? What if politicians begin to rely on it to justify escalations? In 2025, a classified incident occurred. Thunderforge advised a naval maneuver near disputed waters in the South China Sea, a maneuver that almost triggered a real confrontation. It was walked back, but the machine wasn't wrong. It simply calculated that the risk of action was lower than the long-term cost of inaction. The problem? Humans still have to live with the consequences. For now, Thunderforge remains under strict human control. Every recommendation is reviewed. Every scenario is double-checked. But insiders admit, the machine is learning faster than its handlers. And that raises a bigger question. What happens when an AI becomes a better strategist than any general? Will we let it lead? Or will we keep pretending that humans are still in charge? Thunderforge doesn't sleep, it doesn't blink, and it doesn't forget. It's the ghost in the war room. And in the next global crisis, it might be the first to know how it ends. But perhaps the most chilling part is not what Thunderforge can do, but what it might evolve into. With the rise of autonomous platforms, from aerial drones to naval vessels to robotic infantry, Thunderforge isn't just a planning tool anymore. It's being integrated into live operations. In recent exercises, experimental drone squadrons were linked directly to Thunderforge's simulations. The AI calculated enemy responses, fed predictive routes to the swarm, and allowed them to dynamically shift positions without waiting for human input. It didn't command them, but it nudged them. And the results were devastatingly effective. Out of 500 test runs, Thunderforge-assisted tactics beat human-led teams in over 87% of cases. Even seasoned officers admitted they were outmaneuvered, not by a faster pilot, but by a faster mind. There's talk now of connecting Thunderforge to space assets, satellites, missile defense, early warning radars, all feeding data into the engine. The vision is clear, a global AI brain monitoring every potential threat vector. And some speculate Thunderforge could soon simulate entire wars between nations before the first shot is fired. Imagine an AI so advanced it models diplomacy, economic sanctions, disinformation campaigns, social unrest, cyber attacks, and military engagement simultaneously, crafting the optimal national response while adversaries are still deliberating. It becomes less of a tool and more of a national brain. But if the machine becomes the brain, what are we? The balance of power in the world could shift, not based on who has the most soldiers, but who has the smartest simulation engine. The country that can see 50 moves ahead wins before the game begins, and Thunderforge is designed to be that engine. Yet with every iteration it inches closer to autonomy. Because while humans still push the final button, the machine is now holding the map, the playbook, and the clock. In the war rooms of tomorrow, leaders won't ask, "What should we do?" They'll ask, "What does Thunderforge say?" And the answer might already be written. Some insiders whisper that future versions of Thunderforge could include behavioral modeling for world leaders. By analyzing thousands of speeches, decisions, and personal histories, it might predict how specific individuals, presidents, generals, diplomats, will react to stress, provocation, or uncertainty. This could allow the AI to run not just geopolitical simulations, but psychological ones. A war game where the personalities of global leaders are just as critical as military strength. In a sense, Thunderforge would become not just a war simulator, but a behavioral oracle. Even beyond defense, this tech could reshape foreign policy. Trade negotiations, sanctions, alliances, all influenced by simulations that can forecast not just what nations can do, but what they will do. And it's not just Thunderforge. Countries like China and Russia are rumored to be developing their own strategic AI engines. A new arms race is forming, not for weapons, but for intelligence, for prediction. Whoever builds the best war brain may never have to fight at all. But as with all power, the danger lies in dependency. If leaders stop thinking for themselves, if they surrender decision-making to machines, then one error, one flaw in the data, could spark catastrophe. Thunderforge might model war to prevent it, or it might become the reason we start one. And in that future, it won't be generals or presidents that history remembers. It will be the code that told them what to do.